That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, your first headline today talks about if there was ever a time for the Conservative campaign to implode. So I'm guessing you're referring to the fact that we're 2 days away from Donald Trump deciding how he wants to treat Canada. And the other issue, I guess, for the Conservatives, we talked about this earlier, is this idea that internally they seem to be fighting. Is it fair to say?
Yes, and I think what's very important to consider is that if you are going to have these problems, if you are going to have these reports, anonymous, or these leaks out of the party claiming they're on the verge of civil war with the provincial Liberals of Doug Ford, that they want to get rid of their chief organizer because this campaign is going south very, very quickly. If all that's going to happen, let it happen now. Let it happen while you still have, believe it or not, 28 days left in this campaign. And, well, we still don't know exactly the severity of the tariffs that Trump is going to slap on Canada, which I think may have some effect on perhaps the gravitational pull that Mark Carney has exercised thus far. But I'm telling you, I give them a week. You have got to get this stuff. I know it's a ridiculously short window, but it's a ridiculously short campaign. But the Tories have a week to get this sorted out, to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, because after that, when it becomes part of the narrative, Aaron, that these guys, like the U.S. Democrats, are perpetually in disarray, they'll see that result realized in the ballot box on April 28th. I don't think it's too late for Pierre Poilievre, but he is going to have to do some radical rethinking on how he's waging this campaign. The leakers are saying he's not doing that. In fact, he intends to double down. We'll see how that works out for him. But one thing that is abundantly clear, I think, to everybody but Pierre Poilievre, is that, yes, go out and make your announcements. Talk about an energy corridor today that's going to run from one end of this great country to the other. Or if you're Mark Carney, go out and talk about, the biggest housing project in Canada since the Second World War. But the reality is there's one issue. For anybody who's paying attention to this campaign, and believe me, a lot of Canadians are paying attention to this campaign, is Donald Trump, his tariffs, and the very future of this country. And I think failure to understand that and the hazards that come with that will result in how can I put it, a result perhaps just short of disaster.
So let me ask the question then, because if, as we say, D-Day is coming up on Wednesday, right? Decision day for Donald Trump. And let's say the news, Jim, let's play this out. Let's say the news for Canada is better than originally expected. It's nowhere close to 25%. Just kind of let's take that into account. How do you then, as the Conservatives, because that will be perceived as a win for Mark Carney, i.e. a win for the Liberals, how do you then, as a Conservative, fighting in this election, where do you shift your focus? Mark Carney just pulled off a win with Donald Trump. Where do you go next? Well,
you're presuming that people will see result A and attribute it to Mark Carney. I don't think it's that tough for anybody to turn around and say Trump's brain works on a different wavelength every other day. And what we're actually saying, and the reason I'm raising this, I don't know if you saw the report this past weekend, is that there's been talk that in fact Canada is not going to be hit that badly. Well, that badly. It'll be 10 to 15 rather than 25. But all that said, the thing is, if you are able to say, listen, the threat's not going to be quite that great, why don't we concentrate on the other things, i.e. Pierre Poilievre has been talking about whether it was, because the number two, and I think it was a close second, the number two concern of Canadian voters is the economy, is inflation, is the cost of living. Those issues are still there. I don't know, if in this day and age, if the main looming threat of Donald Trump suddenly gets pushed away, not out of the picture, but pushed a little further away, I'm wondering how that is going to affect the tone of the campaign and whether or not indeed, and I think it'd be a big challenge for Carney as well, whether or not indeed Mark Carney can pivot and turn around and say, this is my, this is going to be the thrust of my campaign. This is what else I have to tell you as the leader of the Liberal Party. And I got to tell you right now, Aaron, as we speak, and I know things can change, but as we speak, I am becoming less and less impressed with Mark Carney as a campaigner.
By virtue of what?
By virtue of his dithering over this ridiculous Liberal MP in Ontario, who said his Conservative opponent should be, they should turn him in, they should turn him into the the Communist Chinese Party in Hong Kong and collect $1 million bounty, who then turns around and says, yeah, it was really silly, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. That guy should have been drop kicked out of the candidacy. Yeah. Apparently, Carney's leaving him alone. And I don't know. We do a fair amount of entrail reading here on Montreal Now. Could you make head or tail of what Mark Carney had to say or not say about Bill 96? Because I'm still running that one through my decoder ring, Aaron.
Well, that's the one about yes. So the question was, will you, as Prime Minister, will Canada intervene in the challenge to Bill 96? I think the original answer, Jim, was Carney saying that yes, they would, but not because of what's in the bill, because of use of the and then the answer subsequent to that was because of the use of the actual notwithstanding clause.
Yeah, and here's the problem, because a lot of those Anglos in Quebec, whom Mark Carney seems, as in the final Liberal tradition, to be taking absolutely for granted, they're not angry over the notwithstanding clause, Aaron.
Fair enough.
They're angry over the whole damn bill. They're angry over the fact that they're being challenged, their existence before the courts is being challenged by this absolutely illegal law. So if Mark Carney is still worried, he still wants to walk on eggshells over what some Journal de Montréal columnist is going to say about him, maybe he's in the wrong league. I am waiting, and I mentioned this last week. I really, really want to see this week's poll results to see how he's doing in Quebec. I think the biggest mistake he can make right now is buy in to the mythology that suddenly Québécois is the guardian of Quebec identity, and that if you mess with them and if you don't attend their face-à-face, that's it, you're done in Quebec. I think that's a crock, personally. But listen, I could be wrong. That's why I want to see the poll results. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't bode well. It's not boding well down the road for Mark Carney if this is, how can I put it, the resilience of his campaign personality.
Yeah, it is tough. I think people perceive that in Quebec as trying to play both sides against the middle. That's always a tough thing to do here. So you're right, and it's an interesting point. And by the way, we should point out that both Pierre Poilievre and Jagmeet Singh, right, have both come out and said they have no issue. They would not get involved in
but honestly, and this is the sad thing about it, because at least those guys, they've been on the record literally for years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like literally for years. Poilievre has made it clear a provincial premier can do whatever he or she wants. If it's not my jurisdiction, it's not my job. And as for Singh and the NDP, they were blazing trails in terms of kowtowing to Quebec separatists. Exhibit A being the Sherbrooke Declaration, which I think dates from 2007 or whatever. That's the same one that after the Clarity Act was adopted by the federal government, the NDP said, no, 50 plus 1. One vote. If the yes side in the referendum gets one vote more than anybody else who voted no in Quebec, well, Quebec is a sovereign country. Yeah. That was how low they were truckling to what they perceived as the separatist lobby, the separatist power in Quebec, which right now, as far as I'm concerned, barely exists. But but all that said, it doesn't make it right. Just because the other guys are doing it doesn't make it right.
Sure.
You were hoping for a breath of fresh air with Mr. Carney. I'm still waiting to hear it. And the other thing is, I don't know what he's doing in his spare time, Aaron, but he should be sitting down with a French tutor 24/7. Because he sounds like a guy who used to speak French, who's supposed to speak French again, but isn't practicing his French at all.
Yeah. Well, he only's got another week or 2 weeks to go before he has the French debate. So yeah, we'll see what happens between now and then.
Maybe he should knuckle down because I got to tell you, that one's going to count.
Okay, let me move on to talk about what's happening provincially. We had a little clip in the news. Carl Blackburn, a name that may or may not be known to people in the province, has decided to throw down for the Quebec leadership, the Liberal leadership. I have a couple, and we have him on the show, I think, coming up at 5:30 this afternoon. A couple of questions. Number one. When I hear someone like that talk about a new approach, for the Quebec Liberal Party, he's been involved for years. I mean, most recently as head of the largest employees union group in the province. Is this new and different for the Quebec Liberal Party?
That's a great question to ask him when he's on, but I would say that his new version of the Quebec Liberal Party was the old version that he was a part of that actually worked, that actually paid attention to the ground troops, that actually understood that you had to listen to the entire province. He was an M&A for Overval. That's great. But he was also chief organizer for the party between 2009 and 2013, which were very crucial years. I mean, we saw the Liberals leave power on that score because of the Maple Spring and other things. But this is a guy who has had hands-on experience with, how can I put it, the circuitry behind the control panel. The 2018 embarrassment that the Quebec Liberals suffered at the hands of the CAQ was later explained, and it was explained in a matter of days, that basically the high command couldn't give a damn what the troops were saying, couldn't give a damn what the rank and file had to say about anything. They were the smartest people in the room, and that was that. And we saw the result. Are they picking up steam now? Yes, they are. But they don't have a leader, and I think the only reason they're doing well in the polls right now is because Francois Legault is doing so absolutely terribly. But, I mean, this is going to be a very, very interesting candidacy, if only because if he can turn around and strike that spark and remind people about why this province, and no, not just the west end of Montreal, but this whole damn province, used to vote Liberal, I think we're going to have a very, very interesting race on our hands.
All right, we'll find out. He'll be here at 5:30. Jim, thank you.
Dr. Matt.